Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Spencer Brown. I am Marketing Support Analyst at Dickinson and Associates, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar on Agile Analytics with SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. I would like to thank you all for joining and also point out that if you have any questions that arise throughout the webinar, you can ask them via the Q&A button within the Zoom application. We will answer questions toward the end of the webinar, and if there are questions we don't get to, we will follow up directly after the presentation. So with that, I will pass things over to Rob Jerome.
Thanks, Spencer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Before we get into who Dickinson is, let's just talk about why we're here today. So first and foremost, Data Warehouse Cloud is a relatively new product from SAP. If you attend Sapphire 2 years ago, it was introduced, and frankly, from our perspective, we see it as a game changer in the market. Dickinson and Associates has been implementing analytics software from SAP for 22, almost 23 years. And throughout that time, there's always been this need to balance the governance of IT and the flexibility of the business. And you've heard terms like self-service and the need to be agile and time to delivery and time to value. Well, we finally have a 100% cloud-based solution that we feel bridges the gap between the need to govern IT and the need for business flexibility, i.e. users that can build their own analytical models and build out agile applications and analytical stories to take to key meetings. So this is a game-changing solution for us. We're excited about it. And today we're going to walk you through what Data Warehouse Cloud is and how you can deploy it. Go ahead, Spencer. First and foremost, who are we? So if you've ever been to one of our webinars, you notice we do a little bit of a discussion about who we are as a company, but Dickinson and Associates, who are we? First and foremost, we're business people who know SAP. That's our tagline. We've had it for over 22 years, and it was given to us by our first customer, Rolls-Royce, who described us as, frankly, business people who just happen to know SAP. So if you don't know us and you haven't worked with us, you'll learn that many of us come from industry. We've been in your seat. We've been on your side of the table, so to speak. Or we've come from the big consulting firms, and we kind of settled at this special company called Dickinson and Associates. We are about 160 consultants strong. And what's our focus? We're very proud to say we know what we know and know what we don't know. From an SAP perspective, we specialize in the core, the digital core, SAP ERP, S4 HANA, S4 HANA migrations. Today's topic, which is platform and technology, as SAP would call it, we call that HANA, HANA in cloud, data warehousing and analytics. And the CX suite, specifically commerce. So from an SAP perspective, we're rather holistic. Headquartered in Chicago, so a lot of our friends from the Midwest are probably on the call today, but we've got offices throughout the United States, Cincinnati, Ohio, Annapolis, Maryland, New York City. And we also have our colleagues, we don't use the term offshore, but our colleagues at Dickinson Technology Consulting Services in Hyderabad, India, where we do remote development and remote support of our customers. So that's who we are. Okay. We're gonna do things a little differently today, but our agenda overall is gonna be a day in the life for information stakeholders. I'll explain that in a second. We're gonna talk about the challenges in modern day analytics. I alluded to that a little bit earlier in regard to the balance between governance, IT, and flexibility, the business. Agile analytics with Data Warehouse Cloud. So we're gonna talk about how this application, how this cloud-based solution kind of bridges the gap between business and IT. We get a lot of questions about what are the role of the hyperscalers, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform. What's the role of the hyperscalers in this now increasingly cloud world? Data Warehouse Cloud, we're going to get into, DWC is Data Warehouse Cloud. We're going to get into the architecture overview. So a lot of customers ask us, well, fine, you've got this cloud-based solution. From a data warehousing perspective, I've got sources of data all over the place and they grow every day. How do you connect to those? How do you take my ecosystem of sources and bring that into one spot? We're going to tell you about that. And then finally, we're going to walk you through some use cases. specific use cases as to how you can meet your IT needs, meet your business needs in this one application. Go ahead, Spencer, next slide. So today we're gonna do something a little differently. We're gonna role play a little bit. So we got me, I'm the executive, at least that's what I'm playing today. We've got Shikhar Verma. Shikhar and these are our speakers today. Shikhar Verma is on the call. Shikhar leads our advanced analytics group and IoT group. He's gonna be the IT guy today. We've got Aaron Blasi. Aaron is a delivery director at Dickinson. He specializes in hyperscaler deployments and analytics. So he's gonna be the business guy today. And of course, we got to have the SAP guy. So Stuart, our friend from SAP, has joined us today. And Stuart is a leader in SAP's North American Center of Excellence. So Stuart is an expert in platform technologies, and he's a key leader in the data warehouse cloud space. So we're all going to play different roles today. But the reason for this is because instead of just talking to you about a product, we want to tell you what we're hearing from our customers when we introduce Data Warehouse Cloud, the types of conversations where we're scratching our head and saying, hey, you know what? This would be a great opportunity for us to help our customers by showing them Data Warehouse Cloud, bridging that gap. So we're going to kind of role play a little bit and walk you through that. Go ahead, Spencer. Okay, here we go. Day in the life for information stakeholders. So I'm going to turn it over to the team and we're going to start our walkthrough.
Hi, Shikhar. Hey, Stuart. This is Aaron. Hey, thanks for sitting down with me and discussing some of our business needs. As you know, our new CFO at Acme has mandated that the business units hire data analysts with technical skills in data acquisition and reporting to help us get more competitive in the market. We got to move away from these manual spreadsheets, these data silos, and move towards something that's more automated and robust than what we're using today. This vision that we're looking at, we need to enable the business with tools that can help them, deliver in a more timely manner. Some of the things that we're looking for, we want the solution to be agile. Business needs change all the time, so we can't be stuck in long development cycles. We'd like it to be cloud-based. We're hearing that that's definitely the way that everything's going. But the biggest thing is we want to, allow our business users or analysts to build, artifacts that aren't over complex, but have enough robustness to it that we can deliver what we need, what the business is looking for. We've got some technical resources, not as technical as IT. So we need to find a reporting solution that our technical analysts can learn quickly but not turn them off if it's too technical and they can't catch on to it. But one of the big factors that we definitely need to do is we want to make sure that our data is accurate. So we need IT involved to help us, guarantee that, there's our metrics and our KPIs and everything that we're trying to put together, we need to put together is our enterprise level metrics, that nothing is kind of homegrown in different areas. So with that being said, we've kind of hired a couple, 3 analysts in our sales department. These are our first hires, and they've got a background in SQL and some reporting tools out there. And we kind of want to get started on a couple dashboards. And so what I want to do talking to you two is just kind of see what you recommend. Do you have any ideas? What'll help us?
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for a deep rundown as always. And it's exciting to hear that you're thinking about cloud. But, I'm kind of confused here. You're saying, we need to have our business lead some of these, development of this new portfolio of applications. Plus, you also want IT to be there to support. And we've seen that in the past. So it's easy said than done, right? I mean, you're talking about data coming from spreadsheets, data coming from multiple sources, data coming from SAP, non-SAP sources. And there's a lot that it takes to actually build these models, these coherent models within the system. We have seen that in our past, with our existing analytics system. And on top of it, you have security enablement, data security. And there are other parameters like cloud, security in the cloud. How will I actually enable that security in terms of application or data? And what happens when your data volumes, go beyond your limited capacity? How will you actually increase the system? Like, where will that elasticity come from? I think these are the questions or challenges we tackle with every day, and I don't see any tool being available which gives, a balance between business and IT today. I'm not aware of it, at least, but, why don't we just go and talk to SAP, and probably Stuart can help us answer that question.
No, I appreciate it. And Aaron and Shikhar, you just highlighted, and as we see on the screen, right, you just highlighted most, if not all, the challenges that that led to the development of SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, right? So Shikhar, from an IT standpoint, today you're supporting production extracts, dealing with copies of the data across the enterprise, and having to maintain non-standard processes created by the business using unsupported tools. And Aaron, you started out, right? So needing, from an operational standpoint, you need flexibility and speed and design, but you also need to maintain security and governance of the data, right? So tying back to one source of the truth. So if we sort of move one slide forward, right? SAP created Data Warehouse Cloud to address both IT and business concerns, right? And especially for SAP customers, we've enabled direct connections to the application, providing the ability to combine SAP and non-SAP data with ease. So I think we got a great solution that can support both needs.
All right, so before we move on, just a little bit of a recap. So we heard from Aaron, the business guy, and what was Aaron saying? Aaron was saying, hey, I need to produce something in a reasonable amount of time. I have to support the business. I am the business. Hey, IT's still involved. Don't leave me hanging. I don't think I need to do all of this, but I need the flexibility to be able to involve my business users. So see, Aaron is as the business is reaching out to IT, not abandoning them. I need to support enterprise metrics, and I need a way to get started without engaging in some sort of big bang project, right? So that's what the business guy said. Shikhar, the IT guy, came in and said, hey, oh, hold on a minute, Aaron. I know you want to go out and build some stuff, but what about security? What are you gonna do about that? How do we lock this down and make sure that we don't have security or roles that are out of control? I don't want the Wild West. I understand what you're saying, but I still need some level of security. What about data volumes? You business folks love to crank away on huge volumes of data. Well, what about volumes? How does that play into this architecture? And key word from Shikhar, the IT guy, is, well, what's the balance here? We got to balance IT and we got to balance the business, right? So we heard from the business guy, we've heard from the IT guy, and from SAP's perspective is, hold on, I've got the solution for you that'll help you strike that balance. And now let's dig into the details as to how, per this slide, we can balance governance, security, trust within one single application on the cloud. But if anything, if there was another picture on this slide, there'd be a handshake between business and IT. So that way, Aaron can deliver to his customers, i.e. the broader business, in a shortened amount of time. So that's what you're going to hear throughout this presentation. And what you just heard from those three individuals is what we hear every single day from our customers. Give us a solution that bridges the gap. So we'll take it a next step now and talk through the Data Warehouse Cloud.
Thanks, RJ. So this is going to kind of follow along with that theme is what are the challenges in modern day analytics? So on the left-hand side, you kind of see prolonged development cycle. We talked about that. Business doesn't want to go to IT and hear that they're backed up for the next 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is to put something out there. Limited data exploration capabilities. We know that there's a lot of data silos out there. There's a lot of spreadsheets. How do you get data, out of all these different places and put them into one spot? So that's a daily problem. Elasticity and agility for infrastructure. How does it grow? Last thing you want to do is have a system that gets limited out and then starts having poor performance and not working. Non-unified development interfaces or misalignment between strategic business direction and IT expectations. Talked about that a little bit already. The business usually is fast-paced, moving all the time, making changes. IT, is trying to put structure around things because they have to. So, how do we kind of get through all these different challenges? On the right-hand side is really kind of, I don't say the utopia, but the part that everybody's looking for, right? A solution that's rapid data exploration, accelerated development cycles, that's agile, that gives the business power that they can do what they need to do. A unified interface, that just makes it much easier for everyone to work through. All the users know how to get to their reports and do what they need to do. So, and finally, elasticity. So just the ability to grow when needed. Right. So these are all the challenges and really what we're looking for. So now we're going to go through Data Warehouse Cloud. I'm going to start that off first off with just a very high level view. And as you can see here, Data Warehouse Cloud sits right down in the middle of within the SAP HANA Cloud Services, which also include SAP HANA Cloud and SAC, which is SAP Analytics Cloud. SAP Data Warehouse Cloud does not replace HANA Cloud, but it complements it. But it is that end-to-end data warehouse that, has that more business-friendly feel. And we're going to, like I said, as we go through more of today's slides, you'll see how that, what it's geared towards. Where HANA Cloud, is definitely your full-on robust IT, built back-end data store. Now, Data Warehouse Cloud is backed by SAP HANA Cloud, so it's got the HANA engine sitting behind it. And then it also has SAP Analytics Cloud built into it, so you kind of have the best of all worlds sitting in one. So what are some of the key differentiators for Data Warehouse Cloud? For one, performance. We talked about that. It's got SAP HANA sitting in the back of it. So in-memory technology, it's cloud-based. You have, all of that power that HANA puts behind it. Collaborative, we talked about that. This is a tool that definitely bridges the gap between IT and business. It's something that both can work on and come out with, what is needed by the business. Elastic, we talked about flexibility. So as we go down deeper, we'll talk a little bit more about that. You can ramp up your systems. If you need more power or memory or anything else like that, you can do that, or ramp down, whatever you need. So it's very flexible. And then we talk about pre-built content. Pre-built content, it comes with, extractors like SAP, ECC, S4 extractors, so you can build on those. It also comes with pre-built content from SAP and third party. All right, let's talk about role of hyperscalers. RJ talked at the beginning, a little bit about the hyperscalers. First off, let's start with what systems or hyperscalers it's available on right now. So right now, AWS, it is available throughout the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Azure is the next step that they're going to be starting to move out to some of those hyperscalers, and that will be towards the end of the year and into 2021. And then Google is out there more in the future. So looking down at the bottom, the role of hyperscalers, what are you getting out of it? So working with hyperscalers compared to, let's say, an on-prem system or a hosted system out of that is not hyperscaler level, like an AWS or Azure or Google, is you're getting top hardware, top security. You're getting the best of the best when it comes to machinery and everything that's out there. So one of the big advantages to going to hyperscalers is you get that technology that you're not going to get otherwise. We talked about the elasticity, the hardware elasticity. You want to scale up or scale down your systems. That's what they're there for, right? You've got that capability. You can go in there and move things around and go from there. You can also auto grow things if you need it. So that just is ease on your system. It's not going to lock up on you and run out of resources. Network and security. These are some of the most secure networks in the world. So they pride themselves on being secure networks and stuff like that. You've got that system administration. That's something that you don't have to take care of. You don't have to worry about your system being not being available all the time. So system administration is taken care of. And then we talk about cloud service integration. So once you go, with any of these type of hyperscalers out there, you've got access into all the different services that they have. And with Data Warehouse Cloud, you can connect through APIs to other applications or other databases and things like that. So you can connect through any other cloud services out there. And then finally, there's cloud monitoring, so you can see, how many users are using your systems, how much memory, storage, what's your throughput, and everything else that you've got there. Finally, up on the right-hand side, we walk through sizing. We put this on the slide so we can kind of show what the t-shirt sizing is from an SAP standpoint when it comes to Data Warehouse Cloud. And they've got small, medium, large here, and then you can also do custom sizing. So we just kind of want to throw this up there and kind of show a little bit of what these sizes look like. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Shikhar, and he's going to start walking through the architecture.
Thanks, Aaron. On this slide, you've seen the cut-through version of the architecture, and I'm pretty sure you would have seen a lot of architecture diagrams before this on other products. But there are few key differentiators that I would like to highlight today on this. At the heart of this whole DWC, data warehousing on cloud, which comes as a package. When I say it's a package, It is data warehousing on cloud software along with the SAC license, right? It's SAC tenant that comes along with this whole package. Those two products come hand in glove. At the heart of this is the SAP HANA Cloud service. Now, the SAP HANA Cloud is the new architecture of SAP HANA. And the advantage of this SAP HANA Cloud is it gives you the highest amount of elasticity and agility in terms of, procuring your resources, scaling in and scaling out of your application. SAP HANA Cloud, as Aaron was telling earlier, that the data warehouse on cloud is actually hosted on the hyperscalers. That means AWS, GCP, or Azure. So with the capabilities of these hyperscalers, you can actually scale in and scale out the applications without the effective need to actually scale out only the CPUs or only the memory, right? So in today's world, if I actually have to scale out in HANA, CPUs and memory go hand in glove. That means they both have to be correlated, and they both have to be scaled out at once. Whereas with this product, you can actually independently scale out either the CPUs or the memory. That's a great advantage in terms of your architecture, because you don't need to lean over only the CPU, both the CPUs as well as the memory for scaling out the application. At the bottommost, you're seeing the data sources. The data warehouses on cloud can actually connect to SAP cloud service sources, the external cloud sources, as well as on-premise sources. So there are actually connectors available to connect to SQL, Oracle, and there's a cloud connector which works through OData service. So any application, any external application, any research-oriented database, US consensus database that you want to connect to, which provides you the functionality to actually expose the data through OData, you will be able to connect DWC using the OData capability. At the heart of the engine in the SAP HANA Cloud, you have in-memory storage. You also have the capability of virtual access, and this is available for something you don't want to bring that data into your hot memory. You can actually expose the data set through virtual access, just run the transformation engine on top of it, and build your stories around it, right? On the side, you're seeing the data lake. The data lake is another service, a separate service, which is basically used for data lake kind of scenarios where you're actually storing petabyte-sized data, not only for storage, but also for computation. Now, this is relevant for your big data kind of scenarios, and if you have data lake service activated along with the data warehousing on cloud, you will be able to perform the machine learning algorithms on the data lake and big data, and convert your big data scenarios into reality and expose them into the dashboards or storyboards in the SAC. On the top of it, you have the services which are relevant for your modeling, for creating your artifacts, and these services that are available are attuned to both the user groups, business as well as technology. So if you want to create your artifacts using the modeling, you will be able to create it using the modeling services provided. That means drag and drop. There are standard functions available. You will be able to create those calculation views. But if you want to have IT get involved into this, the IT team can actually write SQL code and build those artifacts that can be used for consumption in the application layer. On the top of it, you have analytics, applications, and predictive. This is a part of the SAC. As I mentioned earlier, DWC comes as a package. It is a DWC plus SAC tenant. So analytics, application development, and predictive, these three components are a part of your complete full license SAC, which is delivered with the data warehousing on cloud. And you will be able to build your stories, your dashboards, your predictive applications, your analytics applications using the standard framework of SAC. In extension to all of this, you have API third-party consumption tools. That means you can actually connect to any third-party tool which has an ODBC driver. So if I have any other tool which has ODBC protocol, you can just connect to DWC and you will be able to build your dashboards and storyboards and consume the data that is residing within the data warehousing on cloud. Next slide, please. This one is an architecture and connectivity, breakdown. As you can see here, you have on-premises systems, multiple on-premises systems to which data warehousing on cloud can actually connect. You have SAP HANA, ABAP, Oracle, and SQL. These are the standard systems for which standard connectivity is available. And on the other side, you have AWS, Google Cloud, and Hadoop. Now, there's another functionality that is available in terms of ETL tool. So any external ETL tool like Informatica, bots can actually connect to data warehousing on cloud and can pull the data inside the data warehousing on cloud, not just from standard connector perspective, but also from the external systems. We also have the capability to connect, as I was mentioning earlier, to connect to any OData relevant source system. So S4 HANA Cloud, any other Ariba system, hybrid system, which actually gives you functionality to OData, you will be able to connect through the OData into the system and consume or ingest your data set. Next slide, please. There's one important concept that has been introduced to the DWC, and that is the concept of spaces, which actually, bakes into the use case of DWC. I believe that Stuart will be talking about in the later slide. The space is a logical segmentation of not only your artifacts, that means your calculation views, your tables, the functions, the procedures, the technical artifacts that you will be building, but it is a logical segmentation of the kind of work you're doing or the business function that you're enabling your analytics for. To give you an example of this, you can create a space for a marketing department or a finance department. That means within that particular space, you will be having the artifacts relevant for only marketing, or you will be having artifacts relevant only for finance. And you can also have a segmentation of space based on your developmental landscape. So if you have only one tenant of DWC, you can create one space for sandbox, the other space for development activities. Or you can create a space for lab use case, which Stuart will talk about in depth, or you can create a space for your enterprise-wide analytics use case, right? So space is a logical segmentation of your artifacts, and not only your artifacts, but also the kind of work you're doing. In addition to this logical segmentation, the other flexibility that you get with the user space is the ability to allocate the resources that will be occupied within a space. And when I say resources, those resources are your computation resources, the number of CPUs, the memory limits, right, that space can actually leverage, which is really flexible given the scenario that if you're trying to incubate certain elements of your business to come on and to actually go ahead and build the extended enhanced analytical applications, you can give them their own space, provide them with some kind of computation power, lesser memory and some CPUs, and they can actually play around with their KPIs and build the artifacts that they want to build. Whereas on the enterprise side, majority of this computation power will be on the enterprise side because that's where your core reporting is happening. So it gives you a lot of flexibility within the same box, within the same system to allocate the computation power and the memory to different spaces depending on the use case that you're trying to achieve, which is not there in any of the existing SAP HANA licenses or any other products that we have in the market right now. Next slide, please. This over here is semantic layer and difference between the data layer. So what we have is introduced with the DWC are two separate layers, and we have kind of segmented them. You have a data layer which is purely technical, and when I say technical, that doesn't mean that business user actually cannot use this layer. They can still use the drag and drop functionalities, but the terminology that is being used in this layer is purely technical, where you deal with terminology like functions, procedures, and calculation views. And this is where you actually build the model, right? So data layer is a layer which is where you actually build the model, set up the connections. You have the local tables or the virtual tables. You decide between how your entity relationship diagram will look like. And the semantic layer is mostly with respect to the business dimension, business terminology, which is the key fields that you have baked into the data layer will be modeled on the semantic layer side, right? So let's say there is a field called profit center. You will be in the semantic layer, you may be calling it as a marketing segment because that's something your business would like to hear and listen to, and they are more attuned to that kind of terminology. Whereas in the underlying table or the data set that you're receiving from the source system, it is more of a technical field name. So semantic layer gives you that kind of a segmentation where a same field can be used in different contexts by different users, and you can actually build the semantic layers. And this semantic layer is getting used in ultimately getting used in the presentation layer of SAC. It's not going to the data layer. So whatever you're getting in the SAC models will be the semantic layer. In terms of the architecture, I've spoken about the elasticity, the HANA cloud advantage that we have, where you can actually scale up the application or scale down the application instantaneously, without correlating both the memory as well as the computation. We talked about the connectivity, the diverse connectivity this tool offers, not only to the SAP data sources, but to non-SAP data sources on cloud or on-prem, as well as to external, ETL tools, which can actually help enable get the data into the cloud. We also talked about the concept of spaces, which is pretty crucial, and I believe the key differentiator of this tool, where you can actually have segmentation, logical segmentation of, not just the artifacts, but also the business functions that you're trying to actually enable the analytics for. And we talked about the segmentation between the semantic layer and the data layer. And all these are kind of value differentiators in terms of this product, which are not available right now for any other product in the market. And, to extend this further, I would have Stuart talk to you more on the use cases now.
Sorry, I had to come off mute there, apologize. So, no, thank you. And Shikhar, I think that was a great architecture overview, right? So from an SAP standpoint, we definitely see sort of 2 to 3 reference patterns, depending on sort of how you break out the accelerated analytics and the gain insights component, right? But I'll start at the top. Definitely from an SAP shop, you may have S4 or BW4, you may have ECC or legacy BW. From a data warehouse cloud standpoint, we've included, as you've heard before, we've included connectors and extractors that expose those familiar structures, right? And this allows the extension from on-prem deployments with the cloud software as a service model, right? And so it's absolutely not a replacement. It is an extension. So when you think about sort of something like BW, right, or BW4, where we've got a lot of the pre-built analytics or integrated data that's coming together, but when you want to add non-SAP data, when you want to add some custom hierarchy or some of those pieces from an outside standpoint or third-party data, this is a perfect place to do it, right? Next, you may have data marts or analytic scenarios where you simply need a governed integrated platform. And as Shikhar was talking about just a minute ago, right? So that's sort of that space concept or that mart concept where I might have something specific to finance, specific to operations. This is where you would use Data Warehouse Cloud from a data store and a compute environment. And I believe, as Shikhar mentioned as well, right, you can federate the data, right? So only pulling data from the source when it's actually needed. And then finally, Data Warehouse Cloud can scale, right, as you heard, to terabytes of data, as well as be used from a multi-line of business data warehouse, right? So cross LOB. We often hear, from a production standpoint, right, we often hear a request for a production sandbox or a development lab, right? So this is absolutely an area and a tool set that can be used in a production environment. But as we've said before, right, this gives you the governance. It allows IT to set the connection up, but then the business to be able to do some of the development across these patterns. And like I said, whether it's individual analytic scenarios or all the way down to enterprise data warehousing, essentially it can cover across those bases. If we go to the next slide, I will also point out and sort of highlight one of the last points I made on the prior slide, right? One of the major design considerations for Data Warehouse Cloud was not impacting existing investments, right? So Data Warehouse Cloud complements S4 and BW4 as well as ECC and BW structures. It connects directly to SAP HANA as well as SQL Server, as you heard, Oracle, and then as Shikhar had mentioned as well, right? Generically through OData, SQL connection, JDBC, and other technologies, right? And so due to the cloud component, it's also flexible and scalable. And you heard a little bit about that, right? Aaron talked to some degree about the scalability and as Shikhar mentioned with the spaces, just the ability for the oversight to maintain the users and maintain the size of the working environment as we're going through it, right? So Aaron, I think maybe you want to dive into some additional details that you've seen as well.
Yeah, so just kind of wanted to add a little business flair to the use cases. A couple things that we've kind of run across with quite a few clients right now, and in the past, how many times has a business unit come up and said, hey, we've got some fairly technical people in our group, and we'd like to get access to your HANA system or your BW system or ECC and pull data, and IT's first thing is like, no, you can't have access directly into our systems, so, we'll provide some reports for you. But then what happens? They run reports, they dump them out to Excel, they import them into another, tool that they then model the data or try to model it in different ways and then report out of that, right? So creating that semantic layer or that reporting tool that is at business level, tool that they can do that with, so they don't have to pull out to spreadsheets, throw into something else, put all their data back together and spend a lot of time on. Data Warehouse Cloud would make that need. So now you can go to that business and say, yeah, we will, build something for you, or help you build, get our connections ready, get your spaces set up for you, and then you can go. You can fly and work with the business or work with what you need to. So, that's definitely a use case that we see a lot of use for. Like Shikhar and Stuart brought up also, that lab environment where, you don't want to impact an existing system, but you want to try stuff out, see what you need. So, work through different ideas, come up with the solution, then go back to IT and say, hey, we need an enterprise level, solution here, whether that is in Data Warehouse Cloud or whether that's, coming out through whatever system you want to do, it gives you that lab type of environment. Data exploration. How many times do you have analysts or business people that just want to explore data? They don't want to impact, your normal reporting systems or your normal reporting areas. So creating a space, and giving them data where they can just explore data, is another use for it. So there's a lot of different ways that, if you really start thinking through the use cases here, or what your business needs, that Data Warehouse Cloud fits in. And like I said, it's a great tool that is finally here, and we see a lot of use for it. So I'm going to turn it back over to RJ, and he's going to do a recap.
Great, thanks guys, and that was fabulous there, Aaron, at the end. What do we hear today? We talked about the common challenges that we're hearing from our customers. Prolonged development cycles, siloed data, manual process. We heard that for a long time. So nothing there that you see on this slide is really new. So that hasn't changed. In the bottom left, you see the business needs, agility, elasticity, rapid data exploration. That's been something that we've heard for years as well. So that hasn't changed. What's new is the platform that we have to find the balance between those two things and to meet those two needs. And that's really the Data Warehouse Cloud. And as Aaron pointed out earlier and Shikhar pointed out earlier, this is the first time we've got an end-to-end solution where those capabilities are built into it. And not only is it an end-to-end solution, it's an end-to-end 100% cloud-based solution where you can take advantage of the hyperscaler infrastructure, the application layer that SAP has built into the platform, the end user friendliness of the SAP Analytics Cloud, which is built into it. And all of this, by the way, all of this runs on HANA. So the power of HANA is the underlying technology that supports this. We talked about use cases, modernizing your data warehouse. So Stuart mentioned that. This isn't necessarily a replacement. This could be an extension of what you've invested in. If you're a full use HANA customer that's used it for what we used to call a native data warehouse or a sidecar, put it on top of that. If you're a customer that has BW, okay, use the extractors to feed Data Warehouse Cloud. If you're a customer that's gone to a hyperscaler, okay, how do we get that data and make very good use of it in an integrated analytics environment? So you should be thinking about Data Warehouse Cloud as a way to kind of change the game. Shikhar mentioned the lab environment. Incubation is a word that we heard. You don't really hear that a lot with SAP solutions, but that's what we're seeing. And I'll leave you with this. Traditionally in a project, what happens when you need a reporting or analytics solution? Well, IT says, okay, fill out the spec. You fill out the spec. IT says, great, the spec's done. We will go build. We'll go build it. Great, IT's done. Here you go, business. Now you test it. Business tests it, and then business IT says, great, you've tested it, please sign off on it, and we're done. But what happens if along that way, especially in the world that we live in now, where things are changing on a daily basis, what if you change your mind somewhere along the way? What if you have to change your mind based on something that happened in the market, in the world? Then what? Go back to the spec? That's the old way to do it. The new way to do it is, yes, have those established connections. Yes, make sure that you know your security layer and how you're governing the solution, but unleash the power of that data, make data an asset within your business. And the only way to do that is to put it in hands of the business and let people actually get to the point where they can do effective, what we've always called for years and years and years, self-service. That's what this platform allows you to do. And you can absolutely find the balance between IT governance and control and flexibility within the business. So that's, if anything, that's what you should take away from today. Next slide. Okay, we've got time for some questions, and then I would encourage everybody to hang out because we've got one more thing after the questions and answers that's important.
Great. Thank you, RJ. Thank you, team. Very much appreciate that. We have a handful of questions already. So again, if you have any questions, please submit using the Q&A button within the Zoom application, and we'll try to respond here. But if we don't cover your question, we will follow up directly. So first question we have looks like, can you connect BobJ to DWC or any third-party reporting tools?
Yep, so I can take that one. Yes, you can. So, you know, it comes with SAC, but if you're already a business object shop or using analysis for Office, and you want to utilize those tools also to hit that data, you can definitely do that. So it kind of gives you, the best of both worlds. You can also hit it with third-party, other reporting tools out there.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Next question. Can we share artifacts, views/tables when we define spaces within Data Warehouse Cloud?
Yeah, I can take that one. Yes, absolutely you can. As I was saying, space is just a logical segmentation, right? It's not a physical segmentation. It's not going to a separate system, separate database. It's just a logical segmentation. And we come across these scenarios where one particular artifact, one particular view with all those KPIs are being shared by multiple business domains or business functions. Marketing will be using something from the sales side, right? So finance will be using right across from supply chain. So yes, you can actually share them in different spaces.
Great, thank you, Shikhar. Next question, we have just a couple more here. Can we have external SAC tenant? Can we have an external SAC tenant connected to DWC instead of using only internal SAC tenants?
Okay, yeah, I'll take that because we do see that. When you have prior, customers that already have SAC in place, more than likely that tenant obviously is built up. It's got a lot of reports in it. It's got security set up into it. Do you want to spend the money on the more licensing in DWC, or do you want to use that existing tenant that you already have? So a couple of scenarios that we've seen out there is, yes, connect your existing tenant to DWC. So you've got an SAC tenant already in place. Now you can source data out of DWC with it. So what do you do with the licenses that come with DWC? I think 5 licenses come with it. A couple of things you can do. You can use that in your test scenarios. So you want to test out different scenarios within DWC without kind of jumping over and building stuff into your other tenant, see if things work. Use those internal 5 licenses or something like that. Or if you need more licenses for your development team or whatever, you can do that. But most of the time what we see is people that are existing SAC clients want to connect that system because it's already up and running.
Thank you, Aaron. Next question, is Data Warehouse Cloud a replacement for BW4 HANA or HANA on-prem?
I can take that one. I think we alluded to this in one of the slide deck, which Stuart was explaining as a use case. No, it's not. Absolutely not. Data Warehouse on Cloud is going to complement your existing investments in the analytics footprint, right? And what I mean by that is you can use Data Warehouse on Cloud to actually support the lab use cases, to actually help, data mart use cases with a specific business function, whereas the other tools in the portfolio can help enable you with the enterprise analytics.
Thank you. Looks like we have one more question here. Can you set up multiple sources to one DWC tenant, like non-production and production environments?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yes, you can. In fact, you know, a lot of what we're seeing also is people starting off with Data Warehouse Cloud are starting off, and you know, they're not doing a big bang go live with a bunch of stuff, so they're starting off with a few use cases. So they might only have one tenant in place at the very beginning. They might go to more tenants down the road. But what you would normally do is you would set up what's called the DP agent, which is what's going to connect. So you're going to set up a DP agent to your non-prod systems and then source that data so that becomes your production or lab environment type of stuff that's a non-production. And then as Shikhar talked about earlier, you know, you can have a space that utilizes those connections. And then when you want to productionalize that, move it over to your production connections, you have another space that's connected through another DP agent through your connections that are all of your production sources. And then you just move your items over and go from there. So yeah, you can set up multiple scenarios where you can pull from different landscapes and keep them segregated.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. Looks like we have time to cover one more question. Wouldn't it be a lot of redundancy to have SAP Data Warehouse Cloud on top of SAP BW4 HANA?
Sure. It's RJ, I can take that. That's a good question. You know what? The truth of the matter is, in some cases, perhaps it may be. It really depends on your deployment. When we talk about extending your current investments, things that you've already got deployed, you know, that is really something that we look at on a customer to customer basis. And I'll get to how we're doing that in a moment once we get through the questions and answers. That's the surprise that I teased you with earlier. But if you've got a BW4 environment that's deployed extensively and you're leveraging Analytics Cloud and you've got that data sharing capability, okay, perhaps that's something that you don't want to extend in a Data Warehouse Cloud. But what we are seeing more often than not, and perhaps not necessarily always in a BW4 environment, but in a native HANA environment, so a customer running HANA Cloud or the SAP Cloud Platform Database as a Service, or native HANA on-premise full use HANA, that's a very technical environment. And Data Warehouse Cloud takes that technical environment and frankly makes it non-technical. And there's a key point in how you do that. If you're a HANA customer today for a full use HANA environment, for example, and you're using that as, again, the sidecar environment, do you know that you can consume data in Data Warehouse Cloud without replicating it to the cloud? So it really depends on the use case. It's a really good question as to whether it's relevant for BW4, but I would pose the question differently and say, when is it relevant for a BW4 HANA deployment to perhaps complement it with Data Warehouse Cloud? And that takes me to my next point, Spencer, if you want to go to the next slide. Because these are the types of questions that we're getting, what we've done, and I realize that we're all working in a virtual world right now, and people, I thank everybody for coming to yet another webinar, but what we're doing is we're actually doing workshops with our customers. And these workshops are intended not just to talk about the theory behind Data Warehouse Cloud, but to workshop, for lack of a better term, through some of these questions and these use cases directly with our customers. So that way you can get your questions answered, and perhaps you figure out, hey, what is a really good use case in my organization? We are happy to help with that. Or perhaps to be fair, hey, you know what? Understand Data Warehouse Cloud, the value in it, but here's where we are in our journey, and fit it into a roadmap, perhaps not now, but later. So these are really good opportunities, not for you to come and learn about a new product, but to roll up your sleeves and talk about what's specific to your company. And we are happy to facilitate those. And I would encourage everybody to register. And we do things like sending out questionnaires and things like that so we can best prepare. But what we're trying to do is really get closer to our customers, closer to people that are considering the application, and figure out use cases in a very personal way with customers that are considering it. So I'd encourage everybody to reach out to us and register for the workshop. Spencer, anything to add on that?
No, I'd like to thank you, RJ, for closing us out here. I did drop the link in the chat, so if you are interested in registering, you can take that link, click through that, or share it with a colleague of yours who you think might be interested. And then stay tuned for more communications about that down the road. And we will be sending out a recording of this webinar in the next day, so stay tuned for that. And with that, I just want to thank you all for joining and wish you all a great day. Thank you very much.